Hi and welcome to my channel. I'm Lena and I share DIY tutorials and other craft tips to help you level up your project. And today I'm going to be showing you how I made these pins using my laser cutter. So if you want to make your own and you're interested in the process, you're going to want to stick around. So I have a market coming up and I was spinning my wheels trying to figure out what products that I could add to my product line. And pins came to mind. They're super popular lately. I've been seeing them everywhere. There's enamel pins, your regular button pin, back style pin, brooches. I've made some before, but I've never made them like this, and I wanted to share the process with you because it's very easy for you to replicate and it's actually kind of fun. You can use them for yourself, you can gift them to someone, or if you're also selling like me, you can use them to add to your product line. I'm going to be sharing two different types of pins, one using acrylic and the other using basswood. I'm also going to show you two different techniques for coloring them in, one for acrylic and the other for the wood. Let's get into it. So for the pins in this tutorial, I'll be using 3mm black and white acrylic and a sheet of 3mm basswood. The first step of this project is designing your pins in a laser software. I like to draw things out in my iPad and import them into xTool Creative Space. Once you have your designs ready to go, it's time to cut them out using your laser cutter. I'm using the xTool P2 to cut these out. The settings I used were just enough to cut out the pieces, but keep the ghost intact so I didn't lose any. Now for the black acrylic. I was debating whether or not to keep the masking on or remove it. In the past, I've kept it on to refrain from bubbling or burning around the edges, but this was the first time I cut black acrylic on the P2, so I wanted to test out the results. Lesson learned, I definitely should have kept the masking on. I'll be doing that for the next pin. Now it's time to assemble the pieces. For this, I'll be using E6000. I bought these tiny tubes and they didn't come with a small nozzle, so I makeshifted one and we'll see how it goes. I got this set of pins from Amazon, and you'll also need a weeding tool and some tweezers, and also 220 grit sandpaper and CA glue. Now I accidentally forgot to hit record when putting the black and white pieces together, but what I'm doing next is how I assembled it. I used the 220 grit sandpaper to rough up the backs of the pieces so that the glue adheres better. I'll also use the piece that the ghosts were cut out of as a frame so I can place the ghost in the proper spot each time. The hardest part of this project is putting just enough glue to not spill over or get your finger stuck, like how I usually do. Once they're in, I just remove the frame using the weeding tool. As you can see, super glue is my arch nemesis, and it's the only thing keeping these things from looking awesome. So I'm going to attempt to clean it up using some isopropyl alcohol and acetone. Huge warning, if you are going to attempt to use acetone, try it on a scrap piece first. I did that, but still managed to mess up a small piece of the black background. I think I may just fill this with resin, so it's not so obvious. Now moving on to adding the pin backs using the same sanding technique and applying E6000. Once it's done, I'll let it sit because you're supposed to let it sit for at least 24 hours. And little update, I did kind of get this clean. Woohoo! Learning my lesson from before and keeping the masking on this time, I'm engraving and cutting another pin design. For this one, I used a white chalk marker to make it pop a bit. Once done, I removed the masking with the weeding tool, then wiped the excess using a slightly damp paper towel. I added a pin back like the last time, and on to the next one. Now it's time for the wood pins. To add color to these, I really like using paint markers. I have these 0.7mm tipped ones, and they're perfect for getting into small spaces. The coverage you get from these are also really great. Once colored, it's time to seal them. For some of the pins, I decided to use UV resin to give them a nice shine and thickness. Pouring a drop on top, then using a toothpick to spread it out. Once covered, you could either set it under a UV light or set it out in the sun to cure. Alternatively, you can spray them with either a matte or a glossy top coat, whatever makes sense for your project. While the pins were drying, I decided to make these card backs to display them using my xTool M1. I finally had a use for this super thick 300 GSM cardstock I accidentally purchased. It's kind of perfect for this job. Once in place on the cutting mat with my blade cutter attached, it's off to the design software. I have a link to this free file in the description below if you want to give it a try. And here's how they turned out. I hope this video was informative and you took something away for you to use in your next project. If so, hit that like button and follow for more tutorials like this and other crazy projects using resin, wood, and a bunch of other stuff. Well, until next time.